As RMC looks at the ruined city, he finally sees that humanity has won. It's just that the 6 demon gods who tried to wipe the world off the map had all fallen. With that, even the last of them, known as the demon god of the Sea of Annihilation, had finally bit the dust. However, most of the planet's surface had already been swallowed by that darn Sea of Demise. Cursing his own bad luck, the kid realizes that humanity is on the brink of total extinction. Even though we won, everyone feels like we lost everything. Not one hero remained alive. The tower holding Earth together had already collapsed, and the wild purple waves kept crashing over everything without stopping. Noticing the filthy water wasn't moving, the blacksmith realized the sea was just throwing a tantrum on its own. Suddenly, a confident guy named Mad Dog appears to mock the kid as a fake savior, but Rabid Dog quickly snaps back, calling him a coward for faking an injury. But Cold Dog leaps into the meat, calling them both wartime leeches, only for our MC to snap back that without the weapons he forged, those fools would have been gone already. Hearing that, the 3 stooges get angry at the blacksmith's boldness, so the young man stands his ground, tells everyone to stop talking, and challenges them to a fight. Known as the 3 dogs, these 3 guys didn't care one bit about humans or demons. After all, they were a bunch of self-serving scumbags who acted only on instinct and cared only for themselves. It was a cruel twist that left them as the sole survivors of the entire chaos. The boy pauses and wonders if things could have turned out differently had they stepped in sooner. Right then, the 3 turn away and wonder if anyone is left to save them, but the red-haired one admits he's running on empty with his organs badly smashed. Right behind him, the other 2 admit they are battered and bleeding badly too, so our MC sighs and grumbles that they should have helped from the start. Lost in that strange place, he yells at the selfish dogs for leaving him behind. All at once, a heavy quiet settles over the ruined place. Weak and spent, the boy finally crumbles to the cold floor. Knowing his time had come, he whispered that nothing in his life had ever been easy, not even until the very last moment. With his very last bit of strength, the blacksmith lifts his hammer high. He remembers his workshop days and complains that people never took proper care of the weapons he built. Watching the swords planted in the earth, he says they will mark a grave for all, and then a fierce resolve hardens the boy's bloody face. As the giant waves roar closer, he knows his moment has finally arrived. Then he activates his skill and declares this his final use of power, clenching his fist as blue energy surges through him. Right away, a message pops up saying the bond is taken from him, and a glowing magic stone starts forming in his palm. With the crystal held tight, the blacksmith shows off his special power to make stones that come from the bonds he shares. All he has left is his special class that turns people's potential into war, but when he uses up that power on himself, angry that the ore was dull and colorless, the young man decided to pour all his regrets into it. He didn't hesitate, bringing the hammer down hard with every ounce of anger he had left. He pounded the metal over and over until the thud of his hammer mixed with the terrifying roar of the endless sea of destruction. But that frantic rhythm of hammering was the only thing that could calm the boy's chaotic mind. Immediately after, a towering column of light bursts into the sky, proving that something wild is being made. Our hero glances at the outcome of his latest try and finds nothing but a plain useless dagger. Feeling let down by the terrible outcome, he realizes he might as well let the waves take him. But in a bold act of rebellion, the kid chooses to call it quits on his own terms. Bleeding badly, he finally tips backward into the deep water. With a crazy smile, the blacksmith laughs at himself for hammering until the very last second. He sinks deeper into the cursed water until his body finally gives out. In this strange quiet, he finally realizes that the voice echoing in his head isn't a trick of his mind, but the ocean of death itself. The boy looks back on the past and wishes he had figured things out sooner or convinced those stupid dogs to fight. But then he opened his golden eye, and the truth crashed into him like a giant falling weight. Just as he sees the perfect weapon and gets the return to origin skill, the blue screen shatters in an instant, removing the on-image skill. Suddenly the kid jolts awake in a daze to realize he's still alive while someone shouts his name. Totally confused, he stands before an angry instructor who is screaming about the admission exam. As we glance around, our MMC realizes he stumbled into a workshop from 31 years ago and thinks he's finally snapped. As he sinks back from the glowing screen, the blacksmith is stunned to find that his worthless stone just threw time backward. Even as the teacher lectures him and threatens to throw him out, the kid ignores the grumpy old man and clutches his hammer, feeling the heavy truth of the moment. Sitting there, he wonders if his return to the past will be enough to stop the world from ending. The boy shakes off his doubts and grabs this second chance with all he's got, ready to give it everything for his mission. With a confident grin, the young man promises himself that this time no one dies because of him, and his main goal instantly becomes passing that tough academy exam with flying colors. To finish the plan, he's already looking for those 3 lazy dogs right now. With a thunderous crash, the hammer hits the anvil and sends a blinding flash of light through the workshop that leaves everyone gasping. Over on the other side of the room, an old-timer with an eye patch hangs his jaw in shock at the kid's strength. The old man watches with wide eyes, amazed that every single hammer strike hits its mark perfectly. While our blacksmith genius melts metal with perfect skill and leaves the crowd stunned, our hero proves he isn't back just to waste time. And by how sharp the blades look, the assistant wonders how crazy that finish really is, so the guy can't believe it and asks if the boy did it all by himself. A veteran professor, feeling impressed, remarks that they have found an incredible candidate this year. The old-timer slams the hammer down hard, knowing that if the kid hands over the weapon just like that, he'll get through right away. Suddenly a loud crack echoes through the room as metal shards fly everywhere, leaving both of them jaw-dropped. With a chuckle, our MC admits he has a long road ahead and won't accept such a piece of junk. The blacksmith shatters his own forged weapon in front of everyone to make sure a poor-quality sword never gets used. Furious at the boy's boldness, the assistant shouts insults and asks if he thinks forging is a game, while the calm young man stares right back and demands to start over from the beginning. Tired of the noise, the aide tries to chew him out, but our hero cuts the drama short by pointing to the table and ordering him to bring the rest of the materials immediately. The boy sets the rules and asks if there's a problem or if he has to handle everything alone, so terrified by the kid's pressure that the assistant runs off like an idiot to get the wars. The professor watches the scene. He warns that only 40 minutes remain in the exam, but the young man nods without even blinking, showing he knows the time is short. The old-timer can't help but wonder if breaking the sword was really the right call. With his gaze locked on the broken parts scattered on the floor, the blacksmith vows he would never throw away something so worthless. The examiner chuckles at the kid's bravery and tells him to give it his all. Then, eyes burning with determination, the boy immediately starts hatching a new plan. He stands swaying before the furnace, knowing his body is too weak, with no magic left, no strength to spare, and no time to make a perfect blade. With our hero facing a critical situation, he makes the risky move to use an alternative solution. As the boy casually throws stones into the roaring fire, the assistant is left baffled until he panics, realizing the kid is pouring magic into the rocks and screaming that the whole thing is about to blow up. The boy ignores the desperate screams and tells the scary cat to shut up and just watch the show. He thinks it's crazy and a sick joke until the furnace erupts in a burst of colorful fire that lights up the whole room. Knowing he's about to burn, the assistant screams for a fire extinguisher, but the veteran professor cuts the drama short by telling him to stop and focus on the technique. With a hand waved toward the fire, the old man says the flames are under perfect control, and the blacksmith standing before that intense heat begins the dark ritual known as the 5-color flame grinding. He grins as he mixes 5 special ignition stones to make a flame that gets hot enough to cook anything. Because this trick needs crazy control but barely any mana, it saves his weak body, and since the workshop stays safe, the crowd whispers while the assistant finally spots a wild detail. Surprised by the metal turning a new color, the guy shows it to the professor, who instantly realizes the boy used the stone's magic power to change the metal. The old-timer admits his method speeds things up, but 30 minutes is still way too tight, so the examiner wonders if the kid has any more tricks up his sleeve after seeing the sword break before. With every hammer strike, our hero sprints against the ticking clock while the professor fears he won't make it. At full power, the boy sweats cold and sparks fly everywhere until his armor fails, leaving him cursing himself and vowing to train harder. Pushing through the pain, the blacksmith grits his teeth and refuses to give up in the final stretch. Knowing the danger, he throws faster, knowing he can't waste a single second. Our hero pushes past his own limits, swinging the hammer with brutal force even though he is completely worn out. With just 10 minutes left on the exam clock, the young man's face gives away how exhausted he is from that wild forging session. Finally, gripping the gleaming sword, he shouts that he's done, and the system confirms that the 5-color flame blade is ready. Suddenly, the glowing window showed the weapon was top tier, leaving everyone stunned into silence as our boy calmly asked the examiners to read its details. After seeing the wild numbers, the assistant lets out a high-pitched scream to say the kid passed easily, only to get a swat on the head for acting crazy before he stammers an apology. Back in the professor and Cheel's fancy office, the boy stands face to face with the scholar and listens to his ironic question about whether this sword is truly worthy of being handed in. The blacksmith, never dropping his guard, gives a short answer saying the blade will have to do for now, but the old-timer quickly sees that the man still isn't happy with his work. The veteran speaks plainly, saying the academy is too tough for him and he should give up his spot, admitting that while Babel's name is famous, its forging team has been struggling lately. Feeling fed up with the mess, the young man frowns and admits he knows all about that terrible future where he remembers the forging department being shut down in just 8 years. Looking at all the paths his life could take, he realizes that the town that will one day become the world's greatest blacksmithing school is right here in Vulcan. Finally, the boy snaps the argument, lifts his eyes sharply, and boldly declares that the best fighter won't be Vulcan. A hero is someone who saves their friends, but shocked, the blacksmith insists the old-timer is totally wrong about what will happen to this place. He points to his chest and declares that Babel will rule everything because of him. To see if the boy was really brave, the professor said he'd have to be the top student in the whole school, but the boy promised he would win. The old-timer grinned and asked the young man if he knew how Babel picks its top freshmen. With all his facts straight, our hero walks us through the tricky extra exam that picks the top talent from every department. The explanation reveals that the academy splits students into 3 colleges just to stir things up. The division is split into combat students, support students, and technical folks, and that is exactly where our blacksmith belongs. And inside every field, dozens of departments are locked in a fierce, tangled web of rivalry. To be clear, the number one is that monster who humiliated everyone and is recognized as the academy's absolute genius. The old man stares at the boy, drops his professor act, and warns him that real success isn't found in winning here, but in heading to Vulcan like a splash of cold water. By the end, the old soldier swears this is the safest road for the boy's future. Our MC smiles warmly, realizing the professor truly loves his students more than his own job title. Once more, the kid, looking serious, says that at his level, the surroundings don't matter at all. The kid stands tall and says with zero doubt that Babel will be number one the moment he steps in. With a smug grin, the professor jokes that success will follow the boy wherever he goes, and when our hero shakes the old man's hand, he admits that while he's not arrogant, he does love that idea. Satisfied with the deal, the examiner seals the agreement and declares the young man is now under his care. With that, a strong handshake locks in the deal between the 2 blacksmiths. Suddenly, a system window flashes up in the MC's face, confirming that he has forged a level 1 bond with Professor Kim. Without wasting a moment, the boy uses his secret skill to pull out his master's bond. Thanks to the energy he drained, a glowing rock appears in his hand. Sitting comfortably in his room, the blacksmith calmly examines the shiny crystal in his hand, nodding that it is of good quality, but grumbling that it is far too tiny. The kid explains that his power turns real friendships into wars that shouldn't exist, but since his bond is still weak, he can barely use the stone to make anything useful. Checking his status screen, the boy sees his stats are way lower than Babel's, so he grumbles about being weak but reminds himself that traveling back in time was already a massive victory. So our MC decides there's no need to rush and just chill for now, since the kid knows he still has plenty of time to crush that darn demon legion. In his mind, he remembers the terrible monsters that didn't just eat people, but swallowed whole planets. He was the one who had to clean up the terrible mess the 6 demon gods almost left behind, nearly wiping out everyone in his past life. To stand a chance against these monsters, the boy decides to rely on his own memories to find the weapons and skills he needs. Certain his plan will work, he celebrates that he's already locked in his first step to getting into the academy. With his eyes locked on the next goal, he starts to figure out his next move. Just as he was lost in thought, a sudden system pop-up startled the blacksmith by showing that his bond had leveled up on its own and unlocked a new recording skill. After skipping forward a week, the Grand Babel Academy finally reveals its full glory. Far from home, our MC scratched his head in confusion, wondering if he'd somehow taken a wrong turn. Without any ceremony, he finally finds the room where they forge things. He peeks through the crack in the door and quietly wishes a good morning to everyone inside. Immediately, he stands face to face with 2 men in suits in a tense room where a blonde man at the table sneers that the candidate is way too relaxed. Frustrated, the man steps forward as Vice Principal Michael Barmouth and scolds the student for keeping everyone waiting, but Professor Kim reminds them that the extra exam still has 10 minutes to start. The blonde man in the suit angrily blames the student's arrogant attitude instead of the time, and our hero instantly realizes that the forging department is deeply disliked by the academy's powerful leaders. As he watches the beef, the blonde student sneers with disgust, letting him see why his master sent him there, and though the preppy kid fakes a happy greeting, the bewildered boy can't help wondering why the room is already packed even though he arrived on time. Then the door swings open once more, and a girl's voice calls out to check if everyone is here. At the corner table, the vice principal joked that he was about to give up on the department head showing up, but our boy was so shocked he recognized the figure instantly and got the biggest scare of his life. The red-haired woman in a suit throws herself into a chair like she owns the place, with absolutely no ceremony. The woman looks Ryu Anha in the eye, offers no excuse for her lateness, and apologizes without a single ounce of regret. Our main character is about to lose it inside, freaking out and wondering why she's even there. He remembered that the redhead used to work at Babel in a different life. But he never guessed that the crazy guy used to be in charge of the whole department. In the future, she became the legendary Whip-On Eater, a hero with the wild power to get stronger by eating swords. And before time twisted back, the two were old friends who sold deadly weapons, and the hero always looked sad, sorry for eating the guns he made. The boy remembers that awful day like a nightmare, with rain pouring down on a ruined world, while the redhead looked completely broken by the storm. Facing the blacksmith's heavy regret and certain doom, our hero blinked rapidly and snapped back to the exam room. Suddenly, Professor Kim shouts, which instantly pulls the boy back from his daydream. The old-timer cuts right to the chase, promising to explain the test rules while demanding everyone pay close attention. He calmly announces that they have exactly 90 minutes to forge a new weapon that matches the sword theme from the last test. The professor holds up a flame to show that only alchemical forging is allowed, while the old man points to the corner where all the materials are waiting. With all the choices right in front of them, the students are free to pick any ore from the baskets, but as the final judges, he warns them that their picks will be graded by head Ryu and the grumpy vice principal. The old-timer shouts one final command, and the showdown is officially on. On the professor's signal, the room suddenly feels hot and tense as the exam that will determine their academy futures begins. With his apron tied, the boy runs through the idea of forging in his head. He faces the ores, recalling that he must pour pure mana into them to keep the wild elemental magic from running away, but a cruel voice breaks the quiet like ice-cold water, making him turn around in shock. Brimming with confidence, the blonde kid asks if the boy thinks he can pull mana from the stones just by staring at them, so the vice principal cuts the awkwardness short by calling his own son's name with a warning edge. The old man, serious and direct, tells the boy to shut up and stop making stupid comments during the test, while Hans gives a fake smile and promises to be careful as our hero finally makes the connection when hearing that last name. The kid is totally floored when he realizes his cocky rival is the examiner's son, and seeing how much they look alike makes the boy laugh because their matching personalities make perfect sense. Feeling like he's won, the rich kid just smiles, thinking he's finally got the upper hand. In Blondie's mind, the contest feels unfair because he's a rich noble up against a nobody with no status. With blue stones in hand, the wealthy kid boasts that his magic power is way too big for someone his age. With the crystal held high, Hans are absolutely sure he has already won this spot, without even breaking a sweat. Across the table, the vice principal sees the expensive water stones and quietly cheers for his son, while Professor Kim warns with a stern look that water-type fighters are too fragile to handle fire and very hard to train. The vice principal scoffs at the old ways, claiming alchemical forging has changed so much that Kim counters by warning them that the time needed depends on the war and dares them to wait 30 minutes to see the result. The proud blonde man in the old car fires back, claiming his hands can build a whole war just as fast. While the professor watches in shock as the young student shapes the stones and finishes their work in just 30 minutes, he admits the boy's skill is already up there with second-year students. Instantly, both him and Kim see the examiner's dirty trick, and though he's furious inside, he knows the vice principal bent the rules by giving his son less time on materials to help him win. Unbothered by the chaos, our hero just stares at the table, picks a few red and white stones for his plan, and leaves the judges scratching their heads. Curious about the boy's strange choices, the bigwigs watch as the vice principal grins slyly, pointing out that the boy's red stones are the exact opposite of Hans's blue ones. Now stunned by the blacksmith's boldness, the guy can't tell if the smith is truly that skilled or just playing hard to get, while the preppy kid has already declared victory, convinced the boy is a total fool. The wealthy boy laughs so hard he can't stop, thinking passing this exam is way easier than grabbing candy from a baby. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light bursts into the room and the blonde's eyes go wide with total confusion. Without hesitation, our hero turns on his secret recording power right then and slaps the firelink iron onto his right arm. In a flash, the boy's fist bursts into a glowing magma glove, and the blacksmith, arm burning bright, readies himself to start this crazy forging. Shocked by the flash, his hands tried to brush it off as a cheap trick, but ignoring the complaints, our hero pushed the fire even harder until a swirling vortex of flames danced in his palm. Surrounded by fire, the boy melts red ores with terrifying ease while the judges in the back stare in shock, with the vice principal calling his brute force magic nothing but foolish madness. The man in the suit gives one last warning, saying that pushing the aura like that will cause him to burst apart. As the chaos swells and the fire spirals out of control, the lights suddenly vanish into total darkness. Suddenly, a blinding burst of energy engulfs the blacksmith as Hans freezes in shock, shielding his eyes and shouting in panic as he wonders where such massive power is coming from. Once the dust clears, a sword sheath made entirely of fire hangs in the air. Immediately after, the system declares the forging done and shows off the new stacked fire sheath that has just been made. From the judge's chair, the red-haired weapon eater leaps up in shock, while the vice principal stammers in disbelief that the boy really did stabilize the ores. Looking at the system screen, Han freezes in shock, stammering as he wonders how anyone could finish crafting a sheath that holds, boosts fire mana, and unleashes wildfire skills so fast. Dubious to believe it, the rich kid insists the explosive mana should have gone off in his rival's hands, but staring at his own half-finished spell, the preppy kid begins to doubt everything he's learned. And in panic, the vice principal yells to halt the test and claims the blacksmith is cheating. With his mind gone, the overly protective father lets out a scary electric glow and stands tall to scare the boy. Our MC watches the pathetic tantrum with cold indifference, mutters something confused, and then the scene shifts to the afternoon in the forging courtyard where the mood is completely broken. Back to that day's talk, our MC listens to the vice principal's speech, which sounds totally The man rolled his eyes and muttered that the boy would have been top of the class if not for that big problem. Big Shot puts on a sad face, complaining that taking big steps feels like a shame. He tries to make his unfair win look okay by blaming the boy for causing the trouble, while the kid rubs his tight fist and frowns at losing without even getting a real chance to fight. Confident in his quiet plan, the vice principal pretends to worry about the students by suggesting they cancel the test and pick a new day. Frustrated by the whole game, Professor Kim refuses to throw away the test, insisting the disaster was Hansa's fault and they must deal with the mess he made. The suited man leaps at the veteran to silence him, shouting that Kim cares more about winning than the student's safety. Without hesitation, the vice principal starts sharing his own wild guesses about why the boy's performance was so strange. Bravely, he claims the world record for resonance is 5 minutes and says no freshman could ever top it. Bigwig shouts and points, wondering if the kid is some kind of monster for pulling off instant power with pure mana. Frustrated by the silly questioning, our blacksmith finally decides to spill the beans and explain how alchemical forging works right then and there. He shows a sword floating in the air and says his old move doesn't kill the ore, but brings its spirit back to life. The boy points with pride that true alchemy isn't magic, but finding life inside the stone by following its deepest roots. As his speech comes to a close, the MC admits that's exactly what he did and warns that the world of forging will soon reach that same conclusion. The kid flatly refuses to explain himself to the old man who keeps shouting, so the vice principal hits back by claiming the young man is cheating behind everyone's back. The man accused the nobody with no powerful family of having to steal that rare weapon. Tired of the loser talk, the blacksmith closes his eyes and demands to know who this trash is, while a woman's voice from the raid head cuts through the silence, echoing from above the counter. The department head gave the crazy theory the green light, admitting the boy's speed was too wild to be true. In a chance, the vice principal jumps in and calls for the candidate to be disqualified for cheating. Everyone is shocked as the redhead leaps off the counter, clutching the kid's brand new sheath while wearing a creepy grin. The boy feels confused by the woman and watches as she gets closer, keeping her eyes fixed on the weapon. Suddenly, the psycho forgets all her seriousness, starts drooling, and begs for just one little bite of the sword. So shocked by the cringy moment, the two old men stood frozen, clueless about what to do next. By the time it was over, the whole thing had become a total embarrassment, and the judge had lost all respect. After everything got so messy, the story suddenly shifts to the city as the late afternoon sun begins to set. Walking down the street, our MC thoughtfully ponders the fact that he has finally escaped that room full of crazies. With the sheath in hand, he admires his work, finds the structure solid, but needing a little polish, and chuckles as he recalls the vice principal's furious, frothing face of hatred after being humiliated. All of a sudden the smile disappears, and the name of the man in the suit starts ringing in his head just like it used to. The boy presses his forehead hard, trying to remember where on earth he has heard of Barmouth before. Right then, a dark thought of the old babble popped into his head, showing the bigwig spending his money on junk guns that blew up without any warning. After the kid struggles to remember, he finally recalls that the cursed blacksmith who left Mad Dog with permanent injuries was named Barmouth, and this shocking discovery reveals that the preppy vice principal has always been nothing but a fraud. When our hero sees this discovery, he finally realizes exactly what ruined the future. At first, his whole purpose was to fix those 3 dogs early on before the world ended. But once he finds the real cause, he realizes that if he stops everyone from making mistakes, the wild redhead won't lose control, even as a fancy meeting room fills with heavy tension. The other professors were so shocked by the blacksmith's boldness that they questioned why he was chosen as the best new freshman. With her arms crossed, the red-haired woman glares at the table and demands to know if the crowd has the courage to defy her, while a nervous man in a suit stammers that his words are just friendly advice and not a real challenge. At the table's corner, Barmouth tries to remind everyone that the redhead just became the boss, so the rules still need a good look over even though that new weapon was pretty cool. With venom in his voice, the old-timer accuses the head of ignoring how rough the boy's sheath turned out. While another professor admits the boy has talent but thinks it's not enough for the top spot, the cool-headed redhead calmly replies that since their weapon is only 60% done, his ability to make it is truly genius. She stares down her rival and demands to know if he can't accept his loss even after such a ridiculous display, while the furious vice principal slams his fist on the table and vows to quit if she keeps up this nonsense. Far from all the arguing, the story reminds us that the Tower of Heroes fell from the sky just over 40 years ago. In response, the Abyss unleashed the Sea of the Demon Legion to poison and eat every living thing on the planet. They built the massive Babel Academy right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to fight off the endless flood of monsters. With the imposing Emperor Ludwig Schubert leading the charge, he tells the new students that they will become legends inside those walls, and with the crowd cheering, he sends the next generation of heroes forward to find glory. Sitting in the middle of the crowd, the boy watches the school's tough leader who rules everyone with an iron fist. Even with his kind smile, that kid knows deep down that the old man is a scary monster in real life. Holding his sword tight, our hero takes a deep breath as the announcer shouts that it's time for the year's best freshmen to show off their skills on the big stage. Right away, the best students from every college are called to the middle of the huge arena. With a confident smirk, the blacksmith admits to himself that in his past life, he was always curious about why those fancy kids acted so superior. Taking the first step, our MC gets excited to see the show catch fire and size up the competition, and from his prime seat, the young man finally understands the reason for all that stuck, while Up Elite's pride swells as they see the huge scale of the event. Holding the microphone, the announcer excites the crowd at the stands and shows everyone which fighter will go first. Deep in the sandy arena, a gleaming golem Model 9 stands ready like a deadly monster, and our boy quickly realizes this robot is built for close-up fighting. Brimming with energy, the announcer shouts for the combat college's top fighter to begin the horror show, and with a grim smile, the blonde kid named Jake Myers steps into the ring, radiating terrifying confidence. He stands face to face with the metal giant, making the whole arena go dead silent and tense, while our MC recalls this weird-haired stranger from a sword clan, who used to settle every fight with his bare fists. And with his fists tight, the blonde fighter says dryly that the fun is finally starting. As the announcer shouts with excitement, and an invisible gong rings out and the brutal beating begins. Before anyone could blink, the freshman sprinted forward, tearing up the ground and flying straight at the automaton. Before you can blink, he unleashes a dizzying series of kicks into the air that shake the armored machine from head to toe. With a wild grin, the fighter tells the robot that the hard hitting is now all up to him. The blonde punches without any time to react, sending such a crushing force that the golem's high-tech armor crumples like cheap aluminum foil. Perplexed, the blacksmith watches the scene in shock, remembering how this rare talent died young in his past life as a mediocre hero. The robot is utterly destroyed and flies away, showing that the kid's raw power is so strange it stands out even among the giants of Babel. A cold sweat drenched his face as he couldn't believe that a monster like this was somehow stuck at a garbage rank in the future. After taking a long beating, the blonde calmly cracks his knuckles and ends the show without getting a single drop of sweat. With the golem completely wrecked and unable to rise, the freshman flips his hair back, beams a triumphant smile at the crowd, and knows his warm-up fight is over. Stunned by the sheer brutality, the announcer stammers in disbelief before finally finding his voice to yell that Jake just wiped out a C-rank target in a single blink. Inside the giant stands, the crowd goes wild, cheering loudly and shouting the name of the fighting prodigy. Quick thinking, the boy realizes the blonde kid is squeezing the next candidate too hard, so the announcer cuts through the noise and calls on the top student from the support college to take the stage. When he recognized her name, our MC sneered with a mocking smile, knowing that feeling any pressure was the very last thing that gloomy girl would ever experience. Because of what happened before, he knows for sure that Erika Anu is the head of the Japanese family among the 3 major support clans. But her story took a dark turn as evil energy twisted her heart and her own family hunted her down until the very end. Knowing she's destined for garbage, the blacksmith turns away from the black-haired girl, but she suddenly stares right at him, leaving the kid totally confused. On the clean stage, the announcer tells the crowd that the new automaton robot has special armor even tougher than the last one, and then he asks into the microphone what crazy magic the new freshman will show to beat the combat robot. The girl lifts a dark, evil cage into the air without speaking a word. As her left eye glows with a ghostly blue light, she gives a short, sharp order to the spirit she just called forth. Right then, a black energy crow breaks free from the cage bars and soars wild through the arena. Like a dark arrow, the magic bird plunges from the sky straight at the giant made of strong metal. Our MC rolls his eyes at how silly the girl looks, mocking her for trying to smash a thick steel plate with just a tiny bird. As the target draws near, the robot switches to extreme defense and lifts up a huge energy shield. Blacksmith thinks instantly that a thin, weak crow could never break through a wall, so strong it can't be hurt. Suddenly the bird beats its wings and shatters into a burst of blinding light that floods the space with pure dark energy. In a blink, a shockwave rushes across the arena floor and shreds the heavy metal as if it were dust. The deadly crow calmly flips through the air to land back on its finger, while the broken automaton watches as a wild, screaming crowd erupts in worship over the effortless destruction of a weak defense. Even our brash kid stands there with his jaw dropped, truly amazed at how quickly the takedown happened. Before the excitement fades, the narrator screams at the top engineering freshman to face his challenge, and under the watch of thousands and the Emperor's deadly eyes, the young man steps forward, knowing he must do something insane or become a laughingstock. The Emperor marveled at how shockingly strong the new recruits were, while the red-haired judge in her chair watched with the serious focus of a boss picking her perfect candidate. With the arena packed, everyone waits to see if the blacksmith can do better than Erika's amazing show. With his 5-colored flame blade raised high on the sand, our boy is ready for the big moment, and the glowing screen confirms it's a rare, fiery weapon. Stunned students in the stands can't believe a freshman built such a crazy weapon, while the important people in the high seats grumble that it doesn't have the same explosive show as the other colleges. With a wicked grin, the blonde vice principal thinks she's won, while the redhead on the mic refuses to accept a D-rank hero offer. The calm blacksmith simply tells them to get the B model ready in heavy armor, leaving the announcer so confused by the kid's crazy, life-threatening idea that he can barely speak. The loudspeaker warns that the model can take hits from even B-rank heroes and still stand in armor, but the panicked narrator believes the kid is just trying to sabotage his own demo on purpose. Or MC refuses to back down an inch, stands firm and orders them to bring out the monster right now. With a loud thud, the giant metal machine slams into the center of the arena and kicks up a cloud of dust. As the crowd stares at the huge deadly steel machine, everyone goes quiet, held in a tight grip by just seeing how big it is. Right after the shock, the master of ceremony launches the combat and tells the boy to show what he's got, while the confused announcer just declares the start without knowing what will happen. And with the sky above them, the whole crowd watches the single blacksmith stand up against the giant robot. Our MC grinned with confidence, vowing to give everyone a show they'd never forget. With his hand on the sword, he shifts his stance to show off the power of his perfect weapon, instantly unleashing wild flames that blast out and light up everything with burning heat. Suddenly, the kid dashes forward like a spark of fire, ripping through the ground to slam right into the giant in his full armor, while the vice principal just folds his arms, laughs it off as mere fireworks, and wagers that a boy with almost no magic won't even scratch the steel. Our MC knows the 5-color flames are so hot they can melt even the guy using them against us. To fix this problem, he turns the special sheath into a reactor that soaks up and holds the sword's deadly power. He carefully pushes the red fire straight into the shiny tube. Once the process is done, the blacksmith's eyes blaze with a deadly gold light as the true technique finally wakes up. Furious at the power he had gathered, he unleashes his wildfire skill, sparking a true storm of flames that detonates all the compressed mana at once like a trigger being pulled. The automaton has no time to fight back as it gets swallowed by a 5-color fire that blows everything up in the blink of an eye. A massive boom erupts as the fire pillar blasts through the sky, shattering the heavy armor. So shocked by that raw destructive power, the narrator drops the mic and can't speak a word. Once the smoke clears, the kid finds a giant hole where the robot used to be, completely melted, so he scratches the back of his neck and realizes he might have hit a little too hard. In absolute panic, the announcer screams for the construction crew to rush into the arena, even as the academy system announces that the freshman has passed their evaluation with top honors. In the fancy main office, the boy apologizes for being late because he was cleaning up the mess he made by destroying the school's arena so badly. Suddenly, the redhead admits she should have handled the mess herself and apologizes for him, leaving RMC confused as he wonders if he was really sent just to get a huge scolding from the bosses. Before the man could even finish his question, the woman quickly shakes her head and explains that the meeting's real purpose is something much more exciting. Suddenly, the cycle lunges forward with a hungry, drooling snap, leaving the boy terrified by the strange sight on the couch. The blacksmith, sweating bullets from not understanding a thing, backs away from the hero's loud stomach growl while the department head fake-coughs to hide her embarrassment. She gets straight to the point and offers to pay 10 times the market value for the weapons the kid made earlier. Almost gushing with excitement, the woman begs him to sell the blade and sheath so she can eat the metal, leaving the boy in total shock as he asks if he really heard that crazy suggestion. Right then, the system beeps to confirm that a special bond has formed with the weapon, the eating hero. So captivated by the shiny metal, she insists the whole gear set tasted amazing just from its smell. Our MC can't help but smile in secret, thrilled that he already made her feel special, even before he has to feed this crazy woman. Smiling calmly, he thanks her for the compliment and grabs this rare chance from the system, then immediately uses his affinity extraction skill right there. A blue flash reveals that the system has successfully pulled a special bond from the redhead, earning him a new power on the holographic screen, the ability to forge a mad blood steel that eats away at other metals. Holding the spiky red core, the blacksmith marvels at his strange new treasure while the redhead back in reality drools and begs to buy it, only to have the boy give a sharp no. Just as the psycho is about to throw a fit, the door knocks and Professor Kim enters with a serious face to tell them the Emperor wants to see the freshman right away for the final ceremony. Shaking his head, the old-timer says he has to take the student, and the department head gives in with a sigh. With a quick nod, the kid waves goodbye to the hungry redhead and walks down the main hall with his master. Left all by herself in the room, the woman paced back and forth in frustration over not getting to taste the perfect fire sword. Far away, the story moves to the massive armored heart of Babel Academy, where a boy and a professor stride in tense quiet through fancy halls toward a huge goal. Kim warns him in a serious voice that since the big boss casually ignored the destroyed arena earlier, they must show respect, and standing before the giant door, he adds that the person inside is far too powerful to mess with. Our MC gives a calm smile and reassures the professor, letting him know exactly who he's about to talk to. When the heavy doors swing wide, the Emperor's booming voice fills the hall to call the blacksmith by his name. Sitting on his high throne, Ludwig stares at the boy with eyes that seem to see every secret sin of his soul, and in that look, the boy is reminded of the past life where this great hero died trying to stop powerful demon gods. The young man bows his head in awe, admitting this powerful aura belongs to a true master, while the old emperor calmly chuckles and says the weapons shown off were strangely fascinating. The leader raved about the young man's raw gift, praised how perfect the move was, and said he can't wait to watch where the young man's journey takes him. Taking a deep breath, our hero gets ready to face the deadly challenge that is about to begin in this lion's den. Without hesitation, the emperor orders the academy to give the boy 2 special prizes for his amazing talent. The master speaks softly and tells the kid to just say what he needs without any nonsense. Our MC didn't hesitate to ask for rewards that would make his magic stronger and help him remember things he'd lost. Wondered by the strange request, the leader lifts his right hand, sending a holy glow across the hall. Suddenly, a gleaming golden shield bursts from the shadows, slicing through the air with a metallic clang, leaving the blacksmith staring at his screen where 2 absurd choices appear: heavy black ink or dream ivory. Satisfied with his find, he grins ear to ear, admitting that while the rare black ink is special, the elusive dream ivory is nearly impossible to get, but luckily, he's already got a plan. From afar, Professor Kim leans in to whisper if the reward pleased the new freshman, while our hero fiddles with ivory and promises it will be perfect for forging his future. In the room's quiet corner, the Emperor watches the boy with a thoughtful look, wondering what's going on in his head. The leader, now totally amazed, whispers that giving 2 divine rewards to just 1 kid was impossible until this moment, admitting that he released the double power only because he saw the boy could handle the pressure. To the veteran, the young man doesn't look like a scared freshman, but rather like an ancient spirit trapped in a teenage body. Right after, the master's sharp eyes snap back to the exit, waiting for the prodigy's next move. With his back to the royal hall, the blacksmith walks, lost in thought about the crushing power of Babel's master, before the scene abruptly shifts to the academy's glowing courtyard the next morning. Hans politely declines a lunch offer from his sycophants, saying he's already meeting with Howard, leaving everyone shocked to see how a preppy newbie could be hanging out with the top third-year student. The blonde guy struts around, lying and claiming our families are friends, while the upperman just wants to drop some wise words. And suddenly, the door crashes shut and the bratty kid gulps nervously as he sees who just walked in. Our boy gives his defeated rival a cold, straight look that says he holds nothing but pure contempt for him. The wealthy boy shakes with anger from the inside as he can't handle the scary, killing look he's getting. As the blacksmith strides right past the group, he lets out a silent scoff, knowing Hans has finally gotten it. He's just trash. Deep down, the blonde tightens his fist, angry at being humiliated by a nobody with no family, but Professor Kim cuts the tension and orders everyone to sit down. And behind the podium, the old-timer nods that every student is here for their very first lesson, and then, speaking in a deep voice, the master warns that their freshman speeches won't be cheap or ordinary. Deep before the class, he drops a crate filled with a special ore known as projection alloy. The veteran quickly warns that the stone reacts violently to your mana, causing forms to materialize out of thin air. The professor proves his legendary status by injecting a drop of mana that erupts into a massive magic spear, smashing through the floor and cracking the ceiling, leaving our hero in stunned awe as he realizes why this old master is ranked among the world's top 100 artisans. But the blacksmith knows this amazing power isn't really part of Kim, it comes from the special metal itself, and just as the master warns, the ore shows the secrets of the person who uses it to make one-of-a-kind weapons. Because of this weird sensitivity, the material is a disaster for making normal weapons with regular designs. The old-timer calls these spontaneous creations avatars of the soul, and as a final test, the professor asks each student to make their own avatar to hang in the main building for a whole week. The nervous freshman pours all his energy into shaping a $1 million ore, sweating bullets as he tries to master this impossible task. Anymore. Tired of the fake acts in the class, the boy realizes no one there has real talent to impress, and finally, the master at the back calls his name to end the round. Now holding the ore, the blacksmith pours his own fire into it and shouts that he has no reason to hide his strength. In that exact moment, scarlet fire pours out of the stone in a wild, out-of-control swirling blast. Feeling like he wants to scare everyone, the boy decides that if he's going to win, he'd better go all out and crush his rivals. Suddenly, a huge wave of energy explodes into the room, shaking the academy's roof with a massive impact. Away from the noisy forging room, students from the main building have gathered in a rush to check out the new Avatar exhibition. In the middle of the hall, the crowd spots the new blacksmith's huge sword and instantly agrees that the kid is a total powerhouse. The older students stared in shock and admitted that a brand new student had strength they couldn't believe. The plaque explains how 19 neighboring projections were sucked into the boy's vortex while he forged, but an envious student tries to downplay it by claiming the boy just stole everyone's ores to make a big weapon. And suddenly, freshman Erica steps in to stop the bull and says the truth is different. Beside her, the battle expert Jake Myers nods in agreement with the girl, his eyes shut tight. Even with all 20 alloys combined, the two Academy monsters couldn't stop the blacksmith's full power. Suddenly the story flashes back to our hero, who is smashing that glowing steel with wild, furious anger. With eyes wide open, the boy hammers down with sharp blows, sending sparks flying everywhere. As stunned by the boy's impossible precision, Professor Kim did the math and realized the kid had hit the metal with zero margin for error, not even a tenth of a second. The master is so stunned he tells the class to skip the student's turn, declaring there is nothing left to teach such a monster. When the old teacher finally calls the class to a close and the students breathe a huge sigh of relief, our blacksmith stays locked in his work, unmoved by the noise around him. So focused was the young man on his wild hammering that he didn't even hear the bell ringing. Feeling the burn in his arms, the boy finally lets go of the hammer and studies the pile of broken swords on the table. Suddenly, a mysterious assistant with glowing eyes steps out of the shadows to ask if the boy will break everything again, causing the startled blacksmith to jump and try to act friendly while hiding his fear. The aide says they must hand at least one piece to the sales team, so he tells the freshman to stop breaking them, leaving our confused hero wondering how students even afford their own budgets. With his subjects silenced, the assistant sneers, asking if the boy's trouble is that he lacks a body or enough mana. The kid gives an ironic grin and admits that his weak body is currently the only thing holding back his skills. Panting heavily, the young man falls onto the table and admits he can't handle the burning heat of melting the stone, so the cold-hearted monitor suggests he might need some outside help to keep forging. Curious, the blacksmith realizes that adding magic to his body will make him grow much stronger faster than just lifting heavy things. Chuckling at his own mistake, he finally gets it. He'd never thought of this simple trick in his past life because he had forgotten how to use those helpful boosts. Driven to beat the game, he instantly sparks his energy aura to show he can easily handle the pressure, and while the grateful boy gets ready to go back to forging, the assistant simply turns around with a bored look. Halfway through his stroll, the preppy kid halts and drops another sharp bit of wisdom, urging the boy to master his technique, rather than relying on raw power. From afar, the monitor warns the boy he is wasting his mana and tells him to drop his power to 10% while focusing on just one spot of the hammer. After accepting the blacksmith's advice to focus on technique first and turning away, the stunned monitor stayed frozen, unable to believe a freshman had ended the talk so bluntly. On the forging table, the heavy hammer rests, showing that the kid has finally finished another grueling training session. From a distance, the academy system tells them that Babel lets students study on their own and take classes from other departments. But the rules are clear. The boy must pass those required classes first, or else he'll be kicked out after failing them 3 times. The train's loudspeaker buzzes to announce the sorcery department station, reminding every student that they are the master of their own destiny. As he steps off the train, RMC bumps into Erica while standing in a tight circle of arrogant upperclassmen, and one of the big guys crosses his arms to tell the freshman to get out of the way. With a bored shrug, our boy tells the jerkos to be the ones moving, and the blacksmith just keeps going, ramming into them with such force that the extras back up, scared. Right behind her, the gloomy girl walks her own path and sharply asks where the kid is going, to which the young man turns his head and casually says he's heading to the sorcery department to pick up a minor. Feeling snubbed, the upperclassmen decide to push their luck by offering the famous freshman girl a tour. He kept hounding us, bragging about his fancy party and screaming for our MC to get lost. With a cold glare, Erica tosses aside the upperclassman's fake act and, away from the fools, asks just what kind of course he's really looking for. The kid quickly says he wants to learn magic to make his body stronger, but she sharply warns him that spells like that will ruin his forging skills. Curious about what he heard, our MC shifts his focus and asks the mages how to build a magic shield to protect the village. The eager freshman grabs a fancy envelope and casts a sealing spell right there to show how the theory works. With mana flowing freely, she weaves magical chains around the paper, showing she has truly mastered the art from start to finish. As the girl passes the sealed letter to the blacksmith and dares him to tear it open with his bare hands, he strains until his arms shake, only to realize the spell never actually made the paper stronger. However, he discovers that the magic keeps its old nature but turns hard like stone the moment it gets hit, a secret she confirms needs private lessons with an old professor to master. Standing by the barrier, the young woman spots her family's secret code and promises to show him a powerful ally in the administration. Instead of taking the offered help, our hero presses his index finger straight onto the glowing letters of the wax seal. With a sudden click in his head, the boy figured out exactly how the barrier worked just by feeling the energy moving through it. In a flash, the spell bursts like fragile glass, leaving the girl stunned while our smug blacksmith grins with satisfaction, thanks her for the free show, and declares that these barriers will be incredibly useful. Turning away, the kid says he's signing up right now and mocks his classmate for hanging out with her fan club, only for the snobby upperclassman to rush over and nervously ask if the freshman girl is okay. As the boy picks up the letter broken on the ground, he sees a fancy seal that proves it is a VIP pass. Curious, the girl glares at the torn paper and mutters that the elite invitation was really meant for him. Meanwhile, our MC reached the huge staircase of the towering sorcery department. As the boy walks through the courtyard, he overheard the crowd whispering that Erica is seeing another student, and he shook his head. The kid chuckles softly, imagining how silly people are for making up tales when they know nothing at all. Keeping his eyes on the mission, he recalls that joining the course means first passing a survival test in the wild. When the blacksmith reached the spot, he found himself staring into a thick, dark forest where the gloomy girl was waiting for him. A random student nearby grumbles about the wind and wonders exactly where the test entrance is. Our boy checks the woods and quickly sees the school is already trying to turn it into a silly treasure hunt. Fed up with their laziness, he storms into the forest to finally end this farce once and for all. But the kid's boot slams into a huge unseen wall of dirt right on his first step. With no struggle at all, the barrier bursts into 1,000 shards, opening a secret space in the woods where the stunned monitors declare the freshman has passed the first phase. So shocked by how fast he won, our MC muttered to himself, wondering if that really was all there was to the test. In a fancy room, the professor who builds walls talks about how much the smart new student loves his class. Next to the old man, his helper confirms the story and passes a phone showing live pictures of the packed forest. Watching the crowd on the screen, the blonde master grumbles that the girl's fame has caused the number of applicants to triple. To catch the leeches, the veteran shows he's trapped the test in a dark illusion maze. Deep inside the professor's mind, a strange redhead grins while he remembers a special favor from a powerful boss. The old-timer says this maze isn't just a magic wall, but a trap that twists your soul. He promises that with giant snakes slithering across the screen, average students will get lost in the dark and quit. Suddenly, the master's face crumbled as he watched the new blacksmith shatter the illusion like a fragile window, and the old-timer later confirmed that the boy had done it all on his own, without any help from the clan's Harris. The professor is completely baffled, admitting that racing through the maze on pure instinct is something truly magical, while back on the field the monitor's voice warns the few survivors that the first round is done. A red-haired upperclassman, buzzing with energy and wearing a scary grin, steps forward to claim he will be the first in the next round. Behind the scenes, the background actors quietly whisper that this is the perfect chance to wow the moody girl and win her heart. But the monitor ignores the egos and points to a giant magic web, challenging you to shut down the barrier without stopping its flow. The evaluator lays down the rules quickly and tells the redhead to start, warning that only raw speed wins, while the upperman watches the energy spider at the center rebuild its threads endlessly unless they are stopped. Desperate to find the magic's heart by following the book, the guy quickly finds his own energy running out. With no other choice, the guy shifts his plan and starts smashing everything in a blur of speed before his energy fades. Using only raw strength, the redhead shatters the spell, falls to the ground breathing hard, and the judge calls his time 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Even after being yelled at for his bad moves, the upperclassman stands up with a smirk, convinced his time is amazing. Immediately after, a bunch of useless students try the same test and fail badly, unable to even trigger the trap. The monitor has no patience for mistakes, so he points them out and sends everyone straight back to beginner class. With the list almost gone, it is finally Uraka Inu's turn, and her powerful presence silences the whole forest as the calm evaluator gives the go-ahead for the Japanese clan's daughter to live up to her legendary reputation. In just a heartbeat, the girl blasts a fierce beam of light that shatters the whole web into dust right at her feet. Confused by the craziness, the freshman shouted, wondering how she turned off the whole formula without even blinking. With a confident flick of her hair, the school's greatest supporter gives a daring glance that proves she is a true legend. Glancing at the stopwatch, the monitor shouts out an amazing 22 seconds, but laments that the usual way would have been a bit quicker. As the event wraps up, the evaluator calls out to our monster blacksmith from the testing arena, but our hero is so focused on the magic web that he misses the trap right in front of him. Up close, he mutters confusedly as he studies the structure, only to be mocked by impatient students who sneer at his slowness and remind him the test has already begun. So lost in the work, the blacksmith discovers that this wall is made of a magic metal just as hard as the heaviest ore. Forging theory says you need every force to hit perfectly at once, and from afar the judge scratches his head wondering what that rookie is up to, just standing there. Erica silences the chatter so the boy can work without interruption. Captivated by the scene, the monitor watches silently. With a crazy idea buzzing in his head, the kid reaches out and pours his fire magic straight into the spell. The moment the barrier's central spider is engulfed by a sudden, wicked red blaze, the illusion breaks apart and the extras step back in horror. The boy smacks the ground and shouts that the job is finished. He grins in triumph, celebrating the discovery of a speedy new way to refine heavy stone. Stunned by the time, the assistant professor slams the stopwatch, while the old-timer, shaking and unable to believe it, whispers that the run took 7 minutes and 45 seconds. The evaluator puts the slow speed aside, knowing the boy will tear down the barrier in seconds next time, proving that the genius didn't just break the web but crafted a perfect spell to undo the original one. With trembling legs, the old-timer wonders what kind of crazy magic the blacksmith will make if he mixes real spells with heavy metal powers. Then the story jumps to the next day when the kid asks to use the middle furnace with top-tier hero materials. In the teacher's lounge, an assistant studies the panel and wonders how many masters will fight to lead this forging this time. Before anyone could react, the guy's phone froze under the weight of messages from the upperclassmen scrambling for the top spot. Yet the assistant saw that none of the vice principals were terrible. A strange mix since Up's request showed how bad everyone felt after Hans lost. Just as the group was picking a supervisor, the Supreme Command cut in to say that the department head would personally handle the freshmen's training. Back in the workshop, our MC is startled by a familiar voice at the door, and though the boy tries to brush her off, the redhead insists she just needs to see his skills with her own eyes. Staring at the hungry head, the kid promises to do his best and starts working at his bench, lifting the heavy black stone to begin the smelting process. Metallurgical theory says that the black vein method is the toughest and most wild way to handle this strange material. In reality, you have to trap the stone in a dark box so deep it feels like there isn't even a single ray of light touching it. In this trick, the stone melts away like water and the blacksmith must use pure mana to blast out the dirt and make the center perfect, which sounds simple enough but is actually like rebuilding matter atom by atom. He carefully chips the stone down to a quarter of its size so the blade won't lose its deadly edge. Next, the kid calls forth a blazing red fire that fills the whole workshop with scorching heat. Our hero, soaking wet from sweat, pours his own life force into the fire to stop it from getting out of control. He guides the magic through the fire, carefully pulling out only the purest sparks from its glowing heart. Soon the energy settles into a wild frozen fire that locks the magic in place at its exact heat. Without breaking his rhythm, he strikes the black stone with a green fire-coated hammer, while a redhead watching from her high seat can't help but stare in shock at the terrible pain the boy must be feeling just to keep that fire burning. Though his body is tired, the monster keeps smashing the ore with endless anger under the green light, while the sky turns colors in the distance, signaling the night's arrival. After 4 hours of non-stop pounding, the kid finally slams the heavy hammer down onto the bench. The black stone, now glowing with intense heat, settles into a smooth shape and changes its nature, and with a deep sigh of relief, he realizes the stone's strange magic has finally stopped. Without hesitation, the young man tosses the treated stone into the small furnace to start the final melt, but as the black liquid pours into the mold, the red-haired head worries that choosing to cast instead of forge might ruin the magic with its darkness. Pumped up, she walks over to the bench to try and figure out what plan the boy has for ending his life. In the last step, the blacksmith cracks a wild grin as the woman realizes he's bending the rules to force a mana circuit into the metal using the barrier. He hits the shell one last time until it breaks open, showing off the hidden gem inside. Suddenly the system announces the black spider bracelet has been created and rewards the boy with a new skill that lets him command black spirits. On the glowing holographic window, that rare treasure shows it can endlessly drink up and save the user's own magic power. Our hero basks in the glory of his wild recipe's total triumph as he gazes upon the masterpiece he created. The ridiculous sight of the redhead's bloated stomach shatters the victory, filling the whole workshop with shock. In a deadly silence, the two stared at each other while the secondhand embarrassment seemed to fill the entire room. Trying to save face, the hero clears her throat and claims the noise was just a metal resonance, while the kid checks the weak bracelets and decides to focus their power on a special trick for future fights. Feeling sorry for the head's hunger, he gives her the leftover black so she doesn't leave empty-handed. She didn't waste a second. She lit a red fire in her mouth to swallow the hot stone, chewed the metal and casually said the snack was tasty. She insists with a strange certainty that the black stone tastes just like fried tempura batter. Seeing her reaction, the kid recalled how he used to try to please this woman's wild taste, and now, with her belly full, the blacksmith knew raising their bond would be easy while he thanked her for the kind words. While the hero watches her eyes linger on the shiny new swords, she can't resist asking the boy when he'll sell his colorful blade and fire sheath so she can eat them as dessert. Sticking to his choice, the kid crushes her dreams by refusing to sell anything, while the redhead thinks he's broke, only for our hero to reveal he needs the gear for his class, and that hunger makes food taste better. He promises to make her life easier by creating something useless for himself, which makes the head leader beam with victory, while the hero asks if the day is done and gets an exhausted answer from the new recruit. She calls it quits and lets the cleaning crew take over, saving the boy's last bit of energy, but as he steps forward, the blacksmith's legs give out and he crashes to the floor. But the redhead reacts on instinct, sliding over fast to catch the kid just before his face hits the hard ground. Worried, she rushes to check if the young man is still alive as he shamefully admits he's run out of all his strength from the forging. She claims she's forcing the boy to walk to his dorm and then suddenly asks if he is scared of heights. Before he can even speak, the hero scoops the child up into her arms like a princess, leaving the poor guy totally confused by what just happened. With a crazy jump, the woman blasts through the window and shoots across the academy's sky, pushed forward by bright red fire. The wild redhead was stunned to find the stone she swallowed held way too much power. Our MC smirks, realizing just how different the world has become since he traveled back in time. Soaring just above the academy's skis, the hero effortlessly flies the kid right to his dorm. Meanwhile, Erica, a gloomy girl, stands frozen in front of the building, clutching a torn invitation she must deliver. Online, students are already sharing rumors and pictures of the new girl waiting at the door for the blacksmith for over 3 hours. Finally, the moderators delete the post, leaving the confused boy staring at his phone screen, unable to keep up with everyone's angry gossip about him. While the blacksmith ignores the drama and focuses on his own life at his desk, Professor Ricaro's Miles steps up to introduce himself and begin the tools course. The buff guy doesn't waste time shoving everyone into the training center and warning that the last person to arrive has to run 20 laps. With panic seizing them, the students start running desperately away from punishment on their very first day. Our MC, utterly confused and grumbling that his class was supposed to be just theory and not a physical nightmare, gets yanked along by the crowd and starts running just to keep up with the chaos. On the running track, folks are already gasping for air as they struggle to survive the brutal warm-up. After 20 wild laps, half the class is collapsed on the sand with zero energy left, and the blacksmith admits his body is just terrible for this kind of life. With his hands on his knees, the professor tries to catch his breath and wonders if the hard work from last night made everything worse. But when the students start whining, he claps his hands to demand their full attention. With a serious tone, the master reveals that a surge in murders by fire sword hunters has forced theory to become practice. These crazy targets are exactly the blacksmiths who can make powerful flaming blades. The kid digs through his old memories, recalls how those past attacks went down, and knows that defending himself must come first. To wrap things up, the old-timer warns that knowing how to use the tool isn't enough. You need raw muscle power just to survive. And with the focus shifted, the instructor orders the class to grab their weapons while the boy stretches out his sore muscles. Refusing to look foolish, the blacksmith pushes himself harder to build up his endurance and sprints again, only to finally feel the wild power of his new black bracelet in action. The system screen shows that his explosive gravity skill turns mana into heavy weight to train his body, instantly boosting his stats by 5 points as the extra burden forces his muscles to grow. Just as the boy was sprinting, the professor's sudden shout froze everyone in their tracks, ordering the young runner to halt and race straight to the middle of the arena. The kid uses gravity to his advantage, quickly turns off the weight, flips backward, and lands on his feet with style. The master is shocked by the newcomer's speed, praising his strong body since he thought he was just a weak nerd, so he grabs a sword and tells the blacksmith to practice a few swings to check his fighting style. Holding the handle so tight, the young man grumbles that the heavy bracelet will throw off his balance, just as the professor suddenly lunges to test his reflexes with a fast, strong strike. Without thinking, the boy lifts his blade to catch the strike, impressing his master with how steady he stands. From the stands, students whisper that the strike felt slow because he was tired from the hard run, but the instructor's eyes go wide in shock as he realizes this kid's moves are almost as perfect as a war veteran's. To save his pride, the old man forces a comeback and scolds the kid for moving too fast. With a wild twist, the master knocks the sword from the newcomer's hand, bringing the fight to an abrupt end right there. His boots slip on the sand, and the blacksmith stops to check his work with a bored look. And, on the other side, the buff old-timer lowers his training weapon and gazes at the student with a spark of admiration in his eyes. So confused, our MC finally realizes the instructor was truly terrified by the technical student's amazing skill and can't hold back his curiosity, so the master bluntly asks who taught the boy to fight like that. To hide his past, the kid comes up with a silly story about learning from online hero videos, but deep down the blacksmith remembers the old beggar swordmaster who taught him everything for a few drinks. Back then, the boy paid for his lessons by promising to forge weapons for free for the old gambling addict. Back in the present, the professor stares in disbelief at the online story while rushing to finish polishing the diamond, and an old man hands him a letter to get into an advanced class. Holding the paper, the boy thanks him and immediately dives into his new task to finally fix his weakness. Deep inside the martial arts hall, a robed old man ruthlessly beats up a grumpy student who won't stop bothering him. As he spots the old man's angry face, our hero instantly knows this is the legendary swordbreaker, Muang Su. The kid realizes his past deadbeat ex-client is now a no-nonsense professor at Babel, and with clean hands, the bearded man sharply asks who the intruder is as the blacksmith steps forward with a piece of paper in hand. Just then, a blonde student leans over and whispers to the master that the boy is the top genius in the technical department, but the old man ignores all that fame, scans the kid from head to toe, and declares him weak. The old man flashes a sarcastic smile and asks if the blacksmith really wants to become his disciple so badly. The professor points to the floor and challenges the blondie to a deadly duel, saying he'll take the freshman's place if the blondie wins. The rules say one clean hit is all it takes, so the blonde gets into a confident fighting stance. When the master roared loudly, the fight began and our hero casually dropped his guard without a care. As the fight goes on, the old man sees that the boy is using a fancy trick to relax his muscles. Thinking the new kid has left a gap, the blonde girl lunges forward to grab him right by the chest. With a face full of disgust, the professor mutters to himself that he despises arrogant fighters who try to win by playing mind games. With a move as smooth as water, the blacksmith slides under his opponent's arm, leaving the other guy reaching for nothing but empty air. The kid uses the enemy's forward rush to spin around instantly and land right behind the blonde. With a sharp shove, the boy knocks the upperman off balance, and his eyes go wide with shock at the sudden force of the hit. With no hope of winning, the blonde girl face plants onto the wooden floor, bringing the fight to a sudden end in just 1 second. By the light on his wrist, it becomes clear that the boy used the black bracelet at the very last moment to make the fall spin out of control. Like a heavy sack of potatoes, the upper-assman slid all the way until he crashed into the wall, leaving him completely defeated and humiliated. With a cynical grin, our MC asks the professor with biting irony if he was moving too fast for his liking, and with his eyes locked on the man, the boy calls upon his promise to claim his spot in the martial arts class. Without patience for the crowd, the old man kicks everyone out of the dojo and tells them to leave immediately, while the blacksmith, full of himself, rubs it in to suggest he should be the one teaching the master's failed student instead. Feeling humiliated, the old man admits that a fresh-faced student beating his fighter will cause a huge scandal at the academy, so the boy agrees and insists the blonde must train much harder to avoid looking foolish again. Suddenly, the defeated student jumps up with bright eyes and thanks him for the beating, thinking it was a valuable lesson, while the professor, humiliated by his student's foolishness, rubs his forehead and kicks the blacksmith out to guarantee a spot. Without wasting a moment, the main character pulls the older man aside for a quick private talk, and then, on the training court, the master demands that the boy reveal this mysterious technique right away. Before anyone can blink, the blacksmith dives forward and smashes the floor with a speed that's almost too fast to believe. Caught off guard, the professor just raises his bare hand to block the heavy hit, doing it purely on instinct to stay alive. With the blade frozen in midair, the kid admits the attack only works if you catch them off guard, so the grizzled veteran praises the idea but warns that the way it's done is way too sloppy. The master, brimming with pride, boasts that if anyone had taught him this junk, he would have snapped their arms, while the young man calmly promises he will one day build a body strong enough to handle such a powerful move. After the boy calls his name, the tired veteran sighs in defeat, and the satisfied blacksmith gives a quick bow before leaving the gym without looking back. Staring alone on the court, the old man grins at the cheeky kid's boldness and skill. Outside, the boy strolls peacefully until a shocking cry snaps his focus. No one's surprised, the defeated blonde guy from earlier shows up in the hallway to ask if he's already on his way, so the upperman extends his arm and hands our hero a fancy envelope sealed with red wax. The blacksmith's eyes fall on the paper, and he instantly knows it's the VIP invitation the noble lady had wanted to hand over earlier. Right after, the blonde girl warns that the group is full of arrogant jerks but admits it's a golden opportunity for the freshman, and with a sincere smile, the rival thanks him for the earlier beatdown, saying the invitation is just a gift for the lesson he taught her. The kid, feeling a bit awkward, takes the gift and thanks the guy he just beat up for the surprise. As the young man walks back, he mentally counts up all the extra lessons he's taken to get stronger in fighting and moving his body. While he was busy finishing up his schedule and daydreaming about magic, he ran straight into a girl wearing glasses in the hallway. Just as the girl is about to hit the stone floor, the boy's quick reflexes let him catch her arms, while the nerd stares in amazement at his gear and wonders if he really built it himself. Confused by the huge reaction, the kid asks back what would happen if he was the one who made that weapon. Driven by her love for magic, the girl begs to enchant the weapon, and the system beeps, confirming her bond with Lee Clued. I would say, in looking back on old times, the blacksmith sees the living legend who can make any weapon stronger with her wild magic. Confused by his incredible luck, the main character realizes he just met the department's top genius, a nerdy girl who mutters magic spells while he calmly eats his sandwich. Suddenly the girl panics and pulls at her hair while the startled blacksmith wonders if the weapon failed, only for the mad enchanter to claim the opposite is true. The ore's perfect fit is almost too good. Overwhelmed by the endless magical choices, she bursts into tears of indecision, while the boy just grins and tells her to take her time, eventually opening his bag to reveal he has a whole stock of that rare material, leaving the genius nerd looking like she's about to explode with sheer joy. Just then, the mood shifts as a grumpy-looking guy interrupts to ask who our hero is, so Lee jumps in excitedly to say she's a third-year upperman and praises the freshman's amazing talent with the forge. Curt and rude, the extra tells the blacksmith to shut up and demands he follow him for a private chat, but the unimpressed boy stays seated and bluntly asks if the man is just a kid. The boss man smashes the table in rage, ordering the kid to stand up or face humiliation and a beating, then demands a formal apology for ruining Lady Aura Inu's special invite. With a look of ridiculous boredom, our hero retorts that the clan's Harris himself tore up that terrible piece of paper, and then the blacksmith drives the final nail in the coffin by pointing out that this idiot never got invited and is just taking out his anger. With a long sigh, the kid asks if Erica sent him there or if the lackey is just acting like a needy little puppy on his own, but startled by the verbal beatdown, Lee jumps back as he feels the murderous aura leaking from the irritated upperclassman. Realizing how immature the guy is, the nerd calmly adjusts her glasses and stops being afraid of the silly situation. As the whole school watches in shock, the bully screams at the top of his lungs, calling the blacksmith decadent trash. With no control over his feelings, the guy unleashes dark magic that conjures dozens of deadly daggers floating in the air, all aimed at the rookie. Unmoved, our boy just sighs at the arrogant, weak rich kids in babble before staring stone cold as a magic attack rushes toward him without flinching. Out of nowhere, a scary dark shape burst from the ground, casting a macabre aura over the busy campus street. With a scream that shakes the air, the shadow creature lunges forward, ripping through the magic daggers like they're made of soft wax paper. Bathed in shadows, the arrogant upperman gets sent flying by the dark girl's huge black bird. From far away, the blacksmith realizes the spell wasn't just magic, but a deadly trick that left the bully lying in the dirt, choking and clueless about how he was so easily crushed. RMC rests his chin in his hand, shrugs his shoulders, and acts like he has no idea what just happened. A blood-red iron affinity seal clings to the boy's back, greedily draining power from the fallen weapons. With a wicked grin, the kid basks in the power dissolving the enemy's daggers, proving that the taste of metal is worth every penny. Right away, a blue screen flashes up, showing that his iron shielding power just made his explosive ring much tougher. To make the shame even worse, he used the artifact's power to kick the last useless dagger straight into the head of the already unconscious upperman. With a sickening thud, the weapon strikes the fool right between the eyes, knocking him out cold, so the boy shrugs at the mess on the ground, turns away, and calls out to Lee to keep their nerdy chat somewhere cleaner. Totally dazed, the enchanter fixes her glasses and smiles at the absurdity of the murder attempt that just happened, while the blacksmith uses their walk to ask for magic class recommendations. With a grin of pride, the nerd insists on choosing the ancient spell class, promising the professor it's tough but amazing, while the humiliated upperclassman left alone in the alley wakes up screaming curses at the world and clutching his throbbing head. Trying to pick up the pieces, the guy sees a dark shadow looming closer with heavy, threatening steps, and as he stammers Erica Ino's name, the gloomy girl returns his fear with a look of pure hatred. Like a green twig snapping in the wind, the goon snatches the dagger from the floor to show his wound, but the Queen of Support offers no pity and coldly tells him she'll report his cowardice straight to the clan's elder brother. With pure terror, the guy silently takes his punishment, while the girl ignores him to study the blacksmith's broken blade. Erica is amazed to see that the rookie copied her secret rune formulas and etched an anti-seizure charm onto his medal. The forest evaluator runs into the principal's office, signs the papers, and instantly boosts the boy's magical talent to the highly sought-after E rank. Suddenly, the system blares a loud announcement that a direct link to Eric Anu has been made, startling our hero who is currently far away from any school office. With a hand on his head, the kid realizes the creepy guy is spying on the fight while spinning the stolen daggers, and soon a tired blacksmith melts down the poor quality metal for his special fire before sitting down to finally watch the magic class while the professor clears his throat to talk about engineering limits. Standing before the class, the professor shows that the metal's shape shifts entirely whenever the mana matrix changes. As soon as the stone lifts off the ground, twisting and spinning in the air, it shows just how many different kinds of weapons these powers can create. Tall in his lesson, the old-timer insists that blacksmiths must know every hidden strength of their metal, so today's hands-on class will be all about turning a plain iron block into something new. The master quickly orders the class to carve a tiny 5 cm design with their magic and then fix it all back up, which surprises our MC because he realizes the professor hasn't given up on refining magic yet, and he now has just 10 minutes to make it happen. Across the room, desperation takes hold as the other students sweat and complain that the metal won't return to normal. So without wasting a moment, the blacksmith places his hands on the iron block, ready to begin. The blonde rival flashes a smug grin and shouts that he's done, but our hero finishes right along with him, earning the veteran's praise and a ticket to the next round. The instructor opens a holographic panel, shows a much trickier puzzle, and asks the pair to use the formula to solve it. With a sneer, the rich kid thinks he's got the rookie beaten, but the professor turns up the heat by projecting a maze of twisted gears as the final test. With intense focus, the two rivals twist the raw metal until the blonde tastes victory, and the preppy kid holds up his flawless creation, declaring it perfect from every angle. To crush the boy's happiness, the professor calls out Hans with a deadly serious voice and flatly demands that the wealthy child fix the piece, leaving him totally baffled. The moment his fingers brush the material, the masterpiece crumbles and breaks, proving the mana matrix has been destroyed. Feeling disappointed, the veteran explains that the iron broke under pressure because they started the job wrong, and he repeats that you must understand what a piece of metal can do before you try to change its shape. According to theory, if the altered matrix can't be restored, the equipment simply rots instead of evolving.